Hello, Something Guys and Gals. This is Something Guy 912, and with you, as promised, a much shorter video this time around. So I've made a number of videos recently covering the ideological nature of things, but one kind of ideology that has confounded me has been veganism. You'd think that veganism, of all things, is just a dietary lifestyle for those who don't want to eat animals, but you'd be surprised how that dietary lifestyle has its many caveats. But you're probably wondering why exactly this confounds me above all things currently, and not a number of other things like with the implicit bias training of Starbucks, or of the peace summit with Kim Jong-un and Trump. Let me explain. I have been watching a number of Atheism is Unstoppable videos lately, and regardless of what you may think of him, if he's too egotistical or he's too harsh to his fan base, he makes some pretty good arguments and stands by his convictions, anti-Trump anyone, despite the backlash. About a month ago, he was in hot water, if you can call it that, for retweeting his disdain for a man beating up a dog for no good reason. A number of notable vegan YouTubers and vegans alike took this as an opportunity to jump and attack him for his outrage, suggesting that he doesn't have the right to be outraged when he, so to speak, is fine with the millions of animals getting murdered for food. On top of this being a false equivalency, it was also a pathetic means of attack, and caused AIU to retaliate with a number of tweets expressing how little he cares about their virtue signaling, which this was, evolving into YouTube videos where said vegans proposed that he wasn't making an argument against veganism, which he wasn't, and AIU getting a little too heated over talking heads. What I found preposterous about this whole debacle was that AIU was pragmatically for veganism, as I would be, but knowing that humans are naturally omnivorous by design, though that it was a far cry to make anyone vegan, especially with the way that these people were trying to change his ways. Even his pro-veganism stance wasn't good enough for the zealots of veganism to basically put him into a corner and repent for his sins against animal kind. So why all the ideological purity by the vegan community? Why is veganism itself become an ideology much in the same vein as being liberal or conservative? This is not a video that is going to be informative or delve into the history of how veganism became an ideology, no. I'm just going to explain the ideological nature by my own mere perception, so let's start. As I said before, veganism is a diet change to where you don't eat animal products, which may include eggs, honey, milk, and fish depending on the extent of it. Why would someone want to change that to that diet? While the lack of trans fat and proteins would make veganism a more healthy diet, most of those who aspire to veganism are doing it for the animal rights. Whether it's the way that farm animals are mass-produced and executed is the point of their concern, the inhumane nature of which those animals are kept, or that they simply believe that animals should be treated like humans is the point of contention, these are usually the three reasons most will drop from eating said animals. Now with that in mind, let me personally remark by saying that hypothetically speaking, it would be nice that we as humans did not need to depend on so much on animal meat, but this isn't a world of hypotheticals, only reality. And the reality being, we are naturally born omnivorous from the very moment we suck milk out of our mother's teat. That's the fundamental thing that a lot of said vegans seem to forget, and for some reason attribute the needless slaughter of animals as an intent of evil by those who eat said animals. Does this sound familiar to you? SJWs will often attribute malice to things that either don't have any or are just of mere incompetence. Not only that, their outrage over the production and consumption of animals will be directed at said meat eaters as if they are complicit or are part of the process in killing said animals, despite that neither had a direct hand in it or are completely unaware of the events unfolding. Again, compare that to the SJWs who think that if you aren't 100% offended about something they too are offended by, that means you yourself are completely fine with it. It's basically a means for those ideologically entrenched to put people into a corner to either submit to their whims or face the eventual pitchforks after, which is the very situation for which AIU got himself in against vegan gains and folks. Another aspect I want to go into, since we're talking about ideologies, is the desire to have moral superiority over something. I already mentioned the virtue signaling that vegans tend to do when it comes to their given diet, but ultimately why they do this is to remind you how they have the moral will to dictate to you your morals. This falls in line with Christian fundamentals who can rule those outside of their faith of sinner regardless of their own actions and instances. The thing is, morality isn't objective. Veganism carries its own double-edged sword. Massive deforestation in Venezuela was a problem as a result of the vegan diet. Are they going to say that is a morally defensible trade-off for the killing of animals? Aren't trees living organisms too? Or what about the actions of individual vegans themselves? Didn't Onision accidentally kill his pet turtle because he forgot to cut fucking holes in it to breathe? And Vegan Gaines is a self-admitted sociopath who will film his relatives dying before him for views and make weird death threats against Mr. Repzion, for example. Can those people really try to hoist the moral code above others when they themselves have done disparaging things? Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that AIU is innocent in all of this, or that veganism is something we should dismiss wholesale, but it's this arrogant, self-righteous behavior that a lot of vegans have about their given lifestyle that makes allusions to third-wave feminists the likes of Rebecca Watson or Lori Penny, who love to remind you how principled they are, while they do things that other people would find reprehensible. It's a matter of those who love to remind you how moral they are, often don't, because you think their moral coda would be displayed better by their actions. Finally, to conclude this curiosity about veganism is how it can be a sort of addendum to already prescribed beliefs. What do I mean by this? Vegan atheist, vegan feminist, vegan Muslim, vegan athlete. Just type vegan into YouTube and find how people add that dietary lifestyle / ideology into other assorted beliefs. It's basically atheism plus before atheism plus became a thing. Why this is important to bring up is that when the atheist community did split up between atheism plus and the skeptics, and then preliminarily the skeptic community splintered off as well, is to show how eventually said vegan ideology was split off and eat its own, even if they believe in the same basic tenets. Same goes for when said vegans attacked AIU when he was pro-veganism, just simply not a vegan. I'm almost certain that Vegans Gaines and his buddy who made their long-winded response to AIU will eventually be at each other's throats. As far as I know, the only person that I can think of who is a vegan who isn't arrogant about it is Anthony Fantano, who's only arrogant about his music know-how, which is well-deserved given how long he's been reviewing music over the years. He makes his occasional vegan videos, but he never tries to grandstand above others because of it. He simply does what he can by his own means. Maybe for those vegans out there who think they're going to win people over by telling them how much of an animal killer they are, might want to take a lesson in humility by the guy who's most popular for being attributed with a fucking fruit of all things. But to conclude, I'm not too surprised that veganism is an ideology, given the reasons many choose to be vegan, but it does baffle me that those in veganism will go beyond just living by their own means and do what they can and insist that they can make others change by night.